President Trump says that he could reach a deal with Iran over the next week to extend the ceasefire and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This is after renewed fighting between Israel and Hezbollah threw a wrench in negotiations. But now the president says both sides have agreed all shooting will stop. So what will the U.S. get out of Iran in a peace deal? Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expecting major concessions.
There is the prospect before us, which could happen today, it could happen tomorrow, it could happen next week, that for the first time, certainly in my memory, they have agreed to negotiate aspects of their nuclear program that just a month ago, or just a year ago, they were refusing to even mention, much less enter into discussions about.
So Secretary of State Marco Rubio, I think I've said this along with Scott Bessent, like one of the smartest people in the room. If he speaks, I listen and I believe him. But I'm wondering if you also believe them, because this has been 3 months, and I think a lot of Americans at home are trying to figure out what's the waiting game. Is it worth it? There's a ceasefire, and then it's off, and then they're shooting, and then we're trying to extend the ceasefire, but we're also trying to reopen the strait at the same time. And I think it can get confusing for Americans.
I think what's very important to realize is no matter how you feel about the war, the administration, Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio definitely have our country's interests at heart. Like, they are the ones who are negotiating on behalf of the United States of America. And that is critically important because, you know, you've got two very different things happening between Israel and the United States. And we each have our own objectives. And, you know, on some issues, we have dovetailed nicely. And on others, we have diverged. And what you're seeing with Hezbollah is a divergence. And, you know, a weaker president would not be able to pick up the phone and call Hezbollah and Israel and say, knock it the F off, which is what the president did. And, you know, it looks like right now they're actually listening to him. It is a much more dynamic situation than I think anyone would have projected getting into. You know, I guess we can't call it a war, can't call it a comeback yet. But, you know, the point is they want to get rid of the uranium. Iran wants the U.S. to lift the sanctions. Who knows if any of that stuff is going to happen long term, because, you know, the fear is that, let's say we do reach an actual deal and all parties sign off on it. Are they going to honor that deal? You know, history does not look kindly upon some of their behavior in the past. So, you know, we have to be reassured by people like Bessent and Rubio that there will be mechanisms in place if they go back on their word.
Jackie, that's my worry, is love that they're talking about a deal and trying for the first time, as Marco Rubio said in recent memory, negotiating on terms of a nuclear program. But I'm with Kennedy. Kind of feels like China, where they say, like, we promise we'll buy soybeans, we promise we'll buy Boeing jets, and then 4 years go by and they haven't actually done it. And so how do you sort of hold their feet to the fire to make sure that that regime follows through on a signed plan of that nuclear agreement?
It's really difficult. And not only am I worried about enforcing a deal if one is, you know, inked, if there's anybody who can be an enforcer, it would be Donald Trump. But what happens after Donald Trump? What you're alluding to is JCPOA, and it's much easier for leaders, even in this country, to turn the other way and not try to enforce certain terms, even though that deal wasn't really, you know, ironclad enough even to get in and do inspections and so many different aspects. So I don't love the idea of a deal in general, because this is a regime that cannot be trusted, Kennedy, to your point. We've seen that time and time and time again. And so I think they'll wait for an opportunity to have a weaker leader in the White House, and at some point they will get it, and then they can exploit that. There was a part of me in the beginning of this that wanted to see Trump go in there as hard as he could militarily, give the people an opportunity to rise up, take their country back, and put a transition government in place. But I think it got far more complicated than the administration or anybody was even imagining that it would. And now there are powers at play within the region who don't necessarily and aren't saying publicly per se, but aren't supporting the military effort of the United States to go in and finish the job, as Jack Keane has said, or Charlie was just here and he said they need to do it. So I don't know where you go from here. And that is a serious problem at this juncture.
Brian, you are Mr. What was it? Fortitude?
Yes.
You had the plan.
You wanted Operation Freedom.
I still remain a huge fan of
Freedom.
Project Freedom, which, by the way, it seems like they've been doing on the down low, escorting ships. So
And
I don't know.
Can we talk about why that? Why not in the big open?
I don't know. I agree with Jackie. There's
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
That's why, yeah.
I thought they figured things out with Saudi Arabia, but Oman has been tricky. But anyway, there's people in the region who don't like that. To those guys, I say the heck with that. We're spending blood and treasure to create freedom in Iran. Why don't you let us run Project Freedom? I don't know. That's a negotiation. I just think at this point, President Trump has decided he wants to use money as the bombs. He wants to be done with the bombs. He thinks money is a ton of leverage. And look, is he wrong? I mean, the Iranian economy is tanking. Okay, they don't have any money. They don't have food to feed their people. So maybe money is the best leverage. And he's saying, do what we want and we unlock your assets. And if you don't, it's going to get so bad for you that you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe your people say, we're done starving. We're going to topple this regime, even if we have to die to do it. I don't know if it's the right bet, but I do think, President Trump has been called a warmonger for so long. None of those people who call him a warmonger have pointed out that the ceasefires lasted longer than the war part of this thing. And none of those people are giving him credit that he's negotiating so hard. I don't know if this is the right strategy, but I think you made the case last hour, Taylor, that the U.S. economy is withstanding this surprisingly well.
Yep.
Okay, maybe with the exception of diesel, gas, and oil. Okay. Maybe he's playing it just the way you ought to, given our domestic situation, given Iran's situation, and given the fact that you can get this done with money. Maybe that is the right way to play it. Nobody's going to give him credit for that, but I don't know that. Maybe that's how you get things done with the Iranian regime. Maybe money talks with them.
So we were on the waiting game, and I'm still sort of waiting for that big announcement that Iran's oil storage is completely full. And are they going by rail to China? The latest data we have in mid-May, they were at 82% capacity. So if we're getting closer to 90 or 100, then they have to start to shut those off. But I'm sort of still waiting for that big crippling collapse for Iran to either bring in an uprising, bring in a new regime to make sure that no bombs, but the money leverage is working. Dagan, I'm wondering if you feel like we're closer to that point when you're looking at oil and the Iranian economy.
I wouldn't count on that happening. I just get the sensation, like the information that we're getting out about Iran's oil storage, it's been off. It hasn't been spot on accurate. And I would fully expect that. But I noted this at the end of last week. Mike Wirth, the head of Chevron, did an interview on Bloomberg, and he said ships were being attacked in the Strait of Hormuz, and some of it hadn't been reported. And it's just there's a whole world of unknown. I think someone on X said that on May 6th, Axios reported the U.S. and Iran were close to a one-page memo to end the war. That was a month. That was like, it's almost a month ago that happened. But we are so focused on Iran, rightfully so, because it is about energy, fossil fuels, and that's what the world functions on. But at the same time, who would have thought that our market is sailing away? It's skyrocketing because of AI, and the CapEx boom is broadening out even further away from, it's not just the AI capital spend, that is growing. And like, for example, I mentioned last hour that Google, or Alphabet, is raising $80 billion in a stock offering to keep spending on its AI, on its infrastructure spend, and that's on top. I mean, that's on top of whatever it earns in cash. But it raised $85 billion in bond offerings last year. This money is free flowing, and in terms of the boom times, we don't have somebody we've learned the lesson that you don't pop the bubble if you're running the central bank. You mentioned Rubio and Bessent, and now we have Kevin Warsh running the Fed. Alan Greenspan directly targeted the dot-com bubble, and it didn't need to burst the way that it did. He was hiking interest rates when inflation was 2 flipping percent.
Remember when 2 words could tank an entire sector? Oh, I miss those days.
He crashed the dot-com bubble. It would have come down, but it didn't need to happen the way that it did. And then housing. So now the air maybe comes out of it naturally, but I think that we have a wiser, calmer head running the central bank. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Jay Powell was like lauded at Brookings today. I think Bernanke and Yellen were like honoring him. Honoring him for what? 9+% inflation?
Yes.
For screwing over Americans?
He makes them look better.
Yeah, thank you.